Thank you for tuning into another episode of Turek Books. Quick reminder, my comedy tour starts this Saturday, June 21st in New York City. Get tickets now. I'm embarking on a 20-city comedy tour across the United States when I've never felt so bad about the United States. And if you know me, you know that's saying something. But we're going to vent, we're going to laugh, we're going to heal, we're going to have a good time. So follow my bands in town. Even if I'm not coming to your city, tell me the city I should go to and it'll notify you when I do. JoshuaTurek.com. You could always get my stuff there, including my new poetry book. But without further ado, our guest today, Cam George. He's a friend of mine. He's been on the show once already. He was passing through Tucson and we recorded an episode about Infinite Jest, the controversial David Foster Wallace. Infinite Jest was published 2 years before Cam was even born. So there's a lot to cover. And we examine sort of what it is to read the work of someone who had such disparate parts of good and bad and the controversy that surrounds it. A lot to explore, but ultimately it's two guys who love reading, sitting down, talking, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Turek Books Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Joshua Turek. We're never going to read all the books we want. But when someone tells us about a book, that's its own valid form of experiencing it. Our guests come in to talk about the books that left lasting marks on them as readers, and that becomes a springboard to who they are, who I am, and maybe who all of us are. So sit back, relax, and enjoy it. And who knows, maybe you'll end up grabbing a book or two. Maybe you've read some of them, and it's nice to hear someone else talk about them. We want this to be like a book club, but without the guilt. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Turek Books. I'm so excited for our guest today, our first repeat guest. He's a podcaster as well. He's a master of the art form. He's one of the co-hosts of the Tuah podcast, which kind of took the world by storm. A comedian, a video maker, a book lover. How you doing, Cam?
Doing great. Thanks for having me here. I'd like to really stress that first repeat guest. It feels good. I hope that's not a slight to Pete, though. This trip really happened because I was in Phoenix working on a project over the weekend, and then you moved to Tucson. Not to dox you.
Yeah, no, the word is out. I don't shut up about it, actually.
One Hertz car rental later, and here I am, getting ready to talk about David Foster Wallace with you.
So happy that you're here. Yeah. You came with that in mind, right? You wanted to jump right into it. Is that what's going on?
Yeah. So the first time I did this podcast, I brought like a pile of books, or maybe I had my Kindle, but I just recently finished Infinite Jest at 26 years old.
Which is a big moment in any boy's life.
It's a stepping stone into adulthood, right? I told my girlfriend before I started reading this book, I said, look, I'm going to get into it. Going to read the whole thing, including footnotes. If you want to break up with me, I'd understand. Because it's a big red flag, and I'm toxic.
What did she say?
She needed time to process it, but I think our relationship is still going strong. It's okay.
She stayed?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, I was 26 when I read Infinite Jest. And so, yeah, I joke about the rite of passage, but I've been there. I did it. I didn't understand how important the footnotes were, so I kind of looked at them as optional, which I've come to find out is not how you are supposed to do it. You're supposed to have a bookmark for the book and a bookmark for the footnotes, because if you don't know about the book, it's like 300 pages of footnotes. Did you read it on a Kindle?
No, I actually read it on the book,
okay,
which was brutal. And I wanted to take past guest Evan's advice and chop this big book into little pieces. But it didn't really pan out that way because of the footnotes.
You didn't do that.
I didn't do it. I kept it whole. Here it is. This is my copy.
Okay, you brought your copy, and then you stacked my copy on top of your copy, and now Infinite Jest is that much more infinite.
Which your book is a little smaller. I don't know if I got some different edition.
No, that's what happens over time when it sits in a bookshelf untouched.
Bigger. It grows.
No, mine's smaller.
Yours shrank.
It's been compressed by its time doing nothing, but being sandwiched between other books.
Well, okay, so going into this book, I feel like I had a crazy revelation with DFW because I didn't know who he really was until maybe last fall.
Oh, wow.
2024. Someone had recommended Consider the Lobster. So I read it and I was so blown away by the essays. And then I was like, oh, this is the same guy that did Infinite Jest. But then I was like, oh, that book is like a meme, right? That book's like a big pile of hunking crap. And I was unsure of it. And it just felt like a waste of time because I'd heard from some people it's gibberish. It gets clowned on all the time. But I just felt like it was the star that kept pulling me. And I had dreams about it. And I was thinking about it a lot. Then finally I was like, I'm just going to buy it. I bought it and I started reading it. I'm like, wait, this isn't what I thought it was at all.
Wow. So you went into it only with knowledge of it as a meme and having read Consider the Lobster.
Yeah, I was ready to meme on it.
What was the discrepancy between what you thought it was and what it became?
I thought it was just going to be like, like gibberish. Just like a postmodern, just like nothingness and footnotes and crap. But this is like a real story with real characters, amazing characters, within, I guess, this kind of like postmodern book, which is meta, and it's making fun of itself, and it's like making fun of books, and it's making fun of footnotes, and it was like making fun of the idea of reading it and taking it seriously, but at the same time, it's delivering like powerful wisdom, and it's very enchanting.
Yeah, so you were hooked.
Yeah, and I feel like it's like the cult like thing. I have a few friends in LA that have read it, and after finishing and talking about it, they're like, oh, you get it. Like, it's like a legit thing. It's like an actual book-ass book.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, and me asking if you were hooked is kind of ironic to what it was. Originally, it was titled Infinite Jest, a Failed Entertainment.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so as you probably gathered through your reading, it sounds like, though, it's an intentionally dense and impossible book. And yet, you're right. He's not being wasteful with that impossibility. He's actually honoring it, and he's trying to bludgeon you with anti-entertainment. He wants to make it as steep of a hill to climb as possible because the message within the book is that entertainment is destroying us. And we could talk about that a little bit, how it's almost predictive of like the Netflix phenomenon pre-Netflix.
Dude, this guy knew boomerangs at lunchtime were coming for Instagram stories. And he was gone long before that. But I think Instagram stories would have like truly blown a hole in this guy's socket.
To see how identical it was to his vision of what was going to become a world where people are rendered catatonic by entertainment.
Yeah, and everything's so kaleidoscopic of like just this fractured entertainment of like going from, I get like he was really crying about like TV. And the whole thing, like TV, is just crazy because you have so many channels. You could choose it. Like you're like going to a movie and they're like, this is what we're presenting. This is the menu. Now you get to kind of make your own menu a little bit more. But now with social media and whatever, like you still get to make it more, but it's still what's presented to you within like this casino slot feed style thing. So it is this weird.
Yeah, the menu is learning you as you're ordering off it, as he says in techno-feudalism kind of.
Yeah.
And so it's an interactive menu that also is like a predator on your impulses.
But what's interesting with Infinite Jest is like the whole thing of like it being meta and like entertainment is bad. Honestly, none of that really mattered as much to me as like the actual characters in the story that had nothing to really do with that. So like the book going into it, there's this family of like tennis players and we focus on like the kid and his relationship with like his brother, mom, and then dead father. And then there's like this halfway house on the tennis academy, which the family built. And so their whole thing is all these characters that are like fighting addiction in various forms. And the tennis family also is like it's a book about addiction as much as it is entertainment.
Yes.
But all the characters are like unbelievably compelling. They're all peacocks. Like every single character you meet is like in your face. And they're all so like rich, even if they're on the page, just one page.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like it's a combination of that and then the writing where it's like this guy's pulling words that are like in obscure medical, dictionary footnotes that you would never find on Google. You'd never find half of these words on Google. They're like so gatekept.
I'm recalling the word anhedonia.
Yeah.
He uses that constantly in lieu of depression, right?
Uh-huh. He's just constantly one-upping himself.
He is, and I've never heard people use that word. I'd never heard prior or since. But as you're talking about it, that's awakening the memory of reading. And the
Yeah.
fact that I read this book 15 years ago and can still recall things like that speaks to what you're talking about. Just like the dense richness of character and subject.
Well, there's like a spirituality to his writing, as insane as it sounds. Like, it's really his like temple, and it's perfect. This book is squeaky clean, and like when you feel like you found a grammatical error, it's like, oh, he always gets you in the end. That amount of like dedication to English is so crazy to me because I'm like really illiterate, and I feel like I have a hard time writing and reading. But this book really makes me want to like learn new words and learn sentence structure.
Well, he doesn't defy sentence structure because, like you're saying, they are probably proper sentences, but some of the sentences can go pages.
Yeah, crazy run-ons. He's addicted to them.
And he does that. What I loved, he would do the and but in between words. Instead of saying and or instead of saying but, he would say and but. And something about that is like how we talk. And it also is like this feeling of you're not getting your point across like you want, but you're so excited about what you're saying. And so you're like, and but the thing is,
yeah.
Do you remember that? Is that right? Am I being accurate?
He's really good at like each character. Like it's written like the way they would like speak.
Right.
And so it's like the book isn't this one long, boring, kind of like postmodern, like, oh, it's sterile or something. There's a lot going on.
It's a lot of internal monologues and even dialogues as though they're talking to someone. And you're not always sure who they're talking to.
Yeah, and this book really surprised me too because it's like laugh out loud funny. There was a night I was reading it and Randy was like in bed watching something and I was laughing my ass off hysterically. And she's like, "Are you laughing from a book right now? That's like psychotic."
Yeah.
I have a hard time laughing from books, like just imagining funny stuff. This really was making me laugh. I
totally agree. When I think of David Foster Wallace, the first thing that comes to mind is how funny he is.
He's really dry. He's really I don't know, for me, like there's these two chapters where it's like the tennis prodigy, this kid Hal, his dad's dad is like talking to his son. So his grandpa's talking to his dad as a kid. And it's like you have no idea where they came from. They're so out of nowhere. Because it was like his grandpa wanted to be a tennis player and he was failed. And he's just, our first introduction to him is like, he's like, do you remember the part where he's like getting mad at his son for like slamming garage doors? And he's saying how like Marlon Brando was like the one who like, the way he throws objects around and stuff, it makes people feel like you don't have to have a grace to like moving a bed or closing a door or like treating objects with respect. And he's just going nuts. And the whole thing is one like run-on sentence, and he just keeps saying James, and like the name, it was just unbelievably funny.
Starts to take on a musicality, and so he's saying that the reason people are rough with the objects in their life are because of Marlon Brando's significance as a movie actor,
and they see the way he treats objects, and he's roughhousing crap.
Yeah,
and then these kids are picking up on that, and he's like, you don't close a garage door like that. You have to have nobility to it. And be respectful of it. It's an object, but it's a thing. You don't know that it doesn't have feelings, kind of. And a lot of it was his own, just like getting annihilated by this kid in tennis. And it was just so dark and brutal, but like hilarious.
The dad getting beaten by his son in tennis, so he's finding other ways to passive aggressively like call him out.
Yeah, it was like him talking about like he was in this match with this other guy, and then his dad was watching him disappointed, and there were like leaves and like crap on the field he slipped on and he broke his leg or something. Look, I mean, the thing about DFW is you're gonna have to separate that art from the artist, man.
Well, exactly. We'll get into that. The one other thing that's coming to mind, how you're describing it, is the clinical language.
Yeah.
He's so clinical about things. He understands every object he's talking about. He understands every person's mental illness that he's talking about. Like you were saying, like he's using words that doctors and scientists might not even use after medical school, having to learn them once.
Because he knows he's a crank.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like he knows what he's doing. And he knows what this book is, but he knows it's also really good.
Yeah.
And so there's like a power to that. And I'm still reeling from the fact that I thought this was a big piece of garbage.
Right.
Honestly.
Right.
And then I read it and I feel almost dumb for liking it because I'm like, am I nuts?
And so what do you think, why do you think it's picked up its stigma? For those who don't understand David Foster Wallace, he died by suicide at like 47, 48.
He unalived himself.
He eliminated his own map,
Yes.
as he would have said in Infinite Jest. And prior to that, there's allegations, pretty like substantiated ones, that he was abusive toward his girlfriend, Mary Carr, the writer. Mm-hmm. And I don't know other ones. That's where I'm at with him. But clearly a tortured soul.
And then also, I mean, it is the fair warning. You go into this, and there are some parts where he's like writing certain characters, or it's just some of the language is like, I was shocked. Like he had certain words in there where it's like, come on, like it's too late in the game to be, you know, like you read like other authors like Kurt Vonnegut or something, and you expect that like there's going to be outdated shit in there.
Yeah.
Which maybe at the time it just people felt okay using that, which is crazy. But for DFW, it is disappointing with some of the language, but I don't know. The book as a whole, I think, still stands up pretty strong.
Yeah. Well, and that's a theme in this book podcast that comes up a lot. And it's a kind of a bland question in some regards, but it's not when you get into the specifics. How do you separate the art from the artist? What do you take away from a person's life? Do you only judge them by their worst qualities, or do you bring in some of their most humane?
Yeah. Well, it's difficult for sure with like when, you know, I mean, I'm pretty like he's the number one author where if you're on a date with a guy, you see that on the shelf, you're out of there.
Right. The red flag.
That's nuts to read this book and have it, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm a kook for liking this, and I think I'm just different like that. I think I'm just a fringe
Well, I mean, that's the thing. No, this book was immensely popular. Still is.
Was it really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, this book was a phenomenon. He became a rock star in the literary community. And if anything, he felt some pressure to follow this up. How are you going to match this? Mm-hmm. And, you know, he was already so in his head about things. But, yeah, he was like the golden boy. And his peers weren't just... He wasn't easy to be friends with. There was a lot of jealousy, very much like the toxic male literary community at the time too. So no one's doing each other any favors.
Now, this was written in the 90s?
Yeah, the 90s.
Yeah, okay.
I would say the late 90s, 98, 96, 98.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
That's when I was born.
When you were born. Okay. So you missed out on that moment.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's like this weird thing of just, dude, I didn't even freaking know about Infinite Jest until, I don't know, maybe like college. Like I saw it on you know, it gets like memed on like TV shows or like the internet.
Yeah.
But like you don't really know what it is until you read it.
Well, let's go into it. Let's go into why it's mocked.
Okay.
Why do you think it is?
Well, it's so it is unapproachable. You look at that thing, and I think any sane person is going to say, I'm not reading that. I don't know. And I was reading it after like my full-time job at night and then doing stuff with Pete. And so it's just like, I barely had time for like my own creative stuff as it was. And then to read on top of that, I just felt like when I started it, there's no way I'm going to finish this. But I like having homework, so I kept at it. But that's a huge thing. It's like from the gate, it's not an easy thing to read. And
physically even.
Carrying it around. And then the footnotes, it's like, come on. A lot of them, he is just spanking you. He sends you to a footnote. It takes you to another fucking footnote. And then it has something in like Latin, which you Google it. And then all it means is go to another footnote you already read and didn't understand. And it can be punishing, but that's part of the fun.
Yeah, and that's he doesn't want your reading experience to have the ease of entertainment.
Yeah.
He wants to obstruct you. But by obstructing you, it's like when you're a kid and your dad's teasing you. It's more fun. He's like playing keep away. You're like trying to get the ball from this, you know, and it's like in that quest of someone being difficult, you're having fun reading it. But why? Okay, so there's just the physicality of it. There's the arrogance of the name,
arrogance of the language,
arrogance of the average reader to say, I want to climb this mountain of 1,200 pages. And for a while, maybe pre your era of being around it, it was the irony. The internet hadn't memed things yet, so there wasn't the irony of it. So I remember being 26, 27 and talking with other dudes at a party about reading Infinite Jest.
Dude, that's where I'm at right now.
And it was like a badge of honor.
That's where I'm at right now. There's no the whole thing is like, I guess like there's irony in this book, but I feel like that's just like to me it's just a good book with amazing characters that this guy's doing this meta stuff that he thinks is funny, and some of it's hilarious, some of it's just kind of annoying. But it's also the fact that reading this, I had to have Google up just ready to go, because I have like hundreds of words screenshotted that now I try and slip them in wherever I can, and it feels good saying these words. And it feels just fun knowing that you can say something like that.
Well, in a country where the average reader reads at a 7th or 8th grade level, some people could take those words as a holier than thou kind of arrogance.
Sure.
And does that also factor into why it's a mocked book?
I mean, I guess so, but also something that unlocked like a kind of like understanding of this book is like the guy who wrote it was a guy, and he had a job teaching kids. Like, he was a professor.
Yeah.
I think with authors or like people who make art, like when they're so just like on a pedestal of like this is just this thing, and it's like this sacred object or thing. This is just a guy that was making money teaching classes, and he really liked English. He apparently had like he taught Bill Burr.
Did he really?
Yeah, I think so. He had like classes of like 5 people because he was like that annoying as a teacher.
No way.
But so it's like he had a love for the English language. I think he had intense feelings about obviously like books and stuff. And he's like, this is my thing. I see it. He's also one of those guys where it's like, he can see into this like abyss of what's coming, especially with entertainment. And, he's someone that battled addiction. So he had a deep understanding of that he put into these characters. And then, this was his thing.
Yeah.
And so then he sold that book for money, and that's all it is. So I'm just choosing to read something that a guy that made money wrote, and I paid his publishing company money to read it, I guess.
Right.
That's all it is.
It's like if you're
it's just a book.
You buy a car.
Yeah.
Because it gets you from point A to point B. You're not thinking about who built that car and what sins they've committed.
It's not magical at all. I mean, it's just paper. And with all that being said, I think it is sacred as fuck.
Yeah. I was like, hang on.
No. It's like that
Explain yourself, not magical.
It's the dual thing of like, it's not magical at all.
Right.
But it is, because it's like this, like I really encourage people to read it, especially if you think it is like crap or like silly or dumb or totally pretentious.
And so when you said you're at that moment now where you're talking to people about it,
and they're like, you read it ironically, I'm like, not at all. I enjoyed this so much.
And what do they like? What do they say?
I mean, I have some friends that have read it and they're totally on the same wavelength. I think other people are just like confused, where they're just like, is that book pretentious? And it's like, well, like it is and it isn't. Like, because I wouldn't say I'm a pretentious person, and I'm not like, you're not wielding this as like, oh, look, I've read. It's just like, this is something that takes work and time to read.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just, what do you want to get from it?
And in a day and age where it's like even more work. I didn't have Instagram when I read Infinite Jest, you know what I mean? Or maybe I'd just gotten it and it wasn't algorithmic, it was chronological.
Yeah.
It wasn't what it is now. Another part is, and it's just a part, but I do feel like every time someone creates something great, eventually that person has to become moralized and brought back down into the fray so that they don't get too big for themselves, which I understand actually is kind of nice. I don't think we should all have superiority or inferiority, but I do think it's detrimental to the work that they created, because clearly this work was moving for you.
Yeah.
It taught you new words. We exist in language.
It also was so truly inspiring a lot, because like I'm trying to become a better writer, and I feel like some of these characters were just so funny and fresh in a way that I'm like, oh wow, like that sentence structure, the way he sets this shit up, especially those chapters where it's like the grandpa talking to the dad, it was just written so brilliantly. And I want to go back again about the thing about how this is so hard to read. Honestly, it's not. Like, it is and it isn't, because I feel like he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve that he wants you to like get tired and winded on these chapters, and honestly just skip it. If it's not, just Because a lot of it is like he wants to discourage you.
Yeah.
And he thinks that he can get you.
Yeah.
And if you can have that force of will and just say, this guy's not going to get me.
Skip a page or two.
The Wizard in the High Tower, he's not going to get you.
I think I skipped a page or two.
A
if I'm
page
being
or
honest.
two isn't going to hurt. Skip, 1, 2, 10, 20, 30. Just read some of the footnotes. You'll be good.
But you do kind of see what he's doing and why he's doing it and where he's going. And so you're like, yeah, I know where he's going. Okay, I get the point. I don't need to encounter all the words right here.
And some of it too is I'm just like, dude, you're really trying to bludgeon me with how boring this is. So I'm going to skim through it, bored as hell. And then that's what I'm going to get from it.
Right.
And that's on you if you wanted me to get something else from it. And then that's unfortunate.
You did this to me.
You forced this into existence. I'm playing your sick little game.
And there it is. I mean, he's a manipulative
He's Jigsaw.
guy.
Yeah, he's toxic.
He is toxic. But does that mean you don't,
This is what I'm saying. The characters are
Yeah.
so good.
I still remember Howling Condenza. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I remember the name of that character all these years later?
And it's also like it plays with the form of like a book. Like it plays with the idea of like, is the end of the book the end? Maybe I'm basic as hell, but like the way he slipped in, I mean, it's not chronological. And even the years, I mean, it's like big ideas that play with the form of the book where it's like, every year is like the year of the glad undergarments or something, where it's in the future where time is subsidized, so like companies can pay to have a year. So it's like the Chinese New Year or something, like year of the monkey, like year of the Domino's pizza. And so you have no idea what time it is.
Right.
And so I don't know. I mean, I thought the ending of the book though, like the last page was really beautiful.
Yeah. Are we going to spoil it?
I don't know. Should we? Should there be a spoil? We don't have
I
to.
imagine if you've made it this far into this episode, you've probably read it too.
Okay. Yeah, honestly, like the rock bottom of it, I thought was so moving, and I felt like a genius for being like, wait a second. Let me put the 2 and 2 together. Because I'm not really a square peg and round hole kind of guy. The book starts off with Hal, and he's surrounded by bodies inside a crappy office. Like very bureaucratic. And at the end of the book is, what's his name starts with G?
I don't know.
The guy. We'll call him Guy.
Okay.
Maybe he wasn't that good of a character because we can't remember.
I remember
his name.
Hal.
But him on the beach, and it was like his rock bottom, and he was just totally in nature after that terrifying like scene of just like the one dude that owed the people money, and he got like forcibly like overdosed. It was like a Clockwork Orange thing, and he was just watching all that happen, and then he took too many drugs and just woke up on the beach.
Well, and then Hal
or got dumped on the beach.
Isn't Hal kind of under some drug addiction and he's kind of fading and it's going to black or something too?
Yeah, I had to look that up. I could not. There's no way I would have gotten that on my own.
Right.
No way. You're kidding? Like that the beginning of it is Hal overdosing on the mushrooms that kid gave him and he can't talk anymore.
Right.
Because that was also what was confusing of like Hal can't talk. Now he can.
Right.
Is he mute the whole time? That's where some like it's like it drives you nuts that like you like this thing about the book, but it also just pisses you off.
Yeah. I mean, you wanted to just talk about this book.
Okay.
What's the reason behind that? What moved you about this book that other books haven't? Is it the fact that you came into it with one idea and it was so different from your experience with it?
Maybe. That could be it. I mean, again, I went into this not thinking I was going to finishing it, not believing that I could. And then 2, that I thought it truly was just a big old piece of blue garbage. And I shocked myself. I felt like I really grew as like a reader and hopefully a writer. I've always loved challenging myself with books. Like I feel like my reading awakening was like reading The Sound and the Fury by Faulkner, and I loved that. And I read it like 3 times.
Whoa.
Because I didn't get it the first time. Didn't get it the second time. Maybe got it some more, but then when it really clicked.
But you knew there was something to get.
Yeah, and then our mutual friend Corey put me on to Cormac McCarthy, another toxic. I'm only into toxic authors, man.
I mean, if you weren't, there wouldn't be many books left to read.
But he put me on to like All the Pretty Horses and Blood Meridian, which is definitely top 3 books.
Wow.
So Cormac is mother for me. DFW's mother for me. It's a shame these guys sucked in real life because I wish I could say with full force, like, that's my guy.
Well,
but it's complicated.
Inherent in how literature is structured, how it arrives to us. Are there many people who don't suck who could even get their work read? The traditional publishing game, that's a hierarchical maze of gatekeepers and cronyism and whatever. And so it's like, yeah, who's not going to suck, who can, and also the subject matter we're attracted to aligns with the sucky world we've been cultured by.
Yeah.
We can say this book is great, but it's only because so much of our brains have been trained to the context of where this book lives. Does that make sense?
I guess so. I mean, it's also
it doesn't have to.
Well, it's interesting to think that this book ultimately was about so much addiction.
Right.
And so much whatever. And it's like none of that was made up. I mean, you see it with the unaliving, but it's like this guy was effed up.
Yeah.
And he had to do it because this shit is true. It's real.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, it's not just like the idea of it. Like this shit is like a lived experience.
Yeah. There's a biography about him called Every Love Story is a Ghost Story. And it touches on that quite a bit. Have you read some of his other books? You said you read Consider the Lobster.
Yeah, I read that. And that's a great essay about like how lobster is like the freshest protein you're ever going to eat. Like it dies within like minutes of coming on your plate, whereas like chicken and stuff has already been processed. It's already gone to a slaughterhouse. The book or the essay in that collection though, which was the first thing I ever read by him, it was something about like the Adult Film Awards.
Oh yeah.
In the Valley.
Yeah.
And I was reading it and I was so captivated because he was just complaining for like so long about the fact that like the payment system for drinks was like unbelievably bad at his table, and like they didn't give him a napkin. I'm like, this is so funny. Like, what a waste of a.
He does that in a supposedly fun thing I'll never do again.
Yeah, I read that
about the cruise ship, and he's like just ripping about the room and the fresh fruit that keeps showing up in the room.
Yeah.
He doesn't know who's putting in there and when. It just keeps arriving. And yeah, he's focused on the minutia, and you're getting insight into what it's like being an unalterably miserable person.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can read the misery just stinks.
When you see everything to the detail that he sees it, how can you not be miserable? There's so much loss and grief and failed expectations embedded within every object.
Yeah.
And experience. Jonathan
Franzen.
Marlon
Brando.
Yeah, exactly, because he started tossing shit around in the movies. Jonathan Franzen, the author, who is another kind of guy that people poke fun at. Him and DFW were friends, and he wrote this really touching piece after he died. And he was basically comparing and contrasting their perception of like going on a long drive and seeing, birds or something, and how like the beauty of the birds, it just didn't seem to sink in with David Foster Wallace in the same way. It's a really great piece.
It's interesting, like you can go on YouTube and see him talk.
Yeah.
And he's a freak. I mean, the way he just talks about like no one wants to sit in silence. No one wants to do all this stuff. And he's so like, you can see how uptight he is about things. And I like truly feels like a one of one kind of author. I mean, the thing that really took me about his work is it's just there's nothing like it. Truly.
Not really.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I love Cormac McCarthy, but you last night brought up Larry McMurtry. And I read Lonesome Dove. And I think that's also a great Western. I mean, they're obviously very different, but I don't know.
I read The Road. Have you read it?
Yeah.
I loved it, by Cormac.
Yeah, me too.
I thought it was such a beautiful symbol of what it is to shepherd a child into adulthood, albeit under the guise of a father wandering through a post-apocalyptic hellscape with his son.
I thought that exact same thing.
You did?
Yes. Word for word.
So touching, so poetic. I've heard people... on Goodreads, if you look at the top review, it's a guy who's just trashing it.
Oh, really?
Going through the road, just trashing it. And I pity him that he's not able to take in how beautiful and simple that book was.
Well, I mean, it's just so interesting how it's like things only matter as much as like you want them to.
Right.
So for that to inspire that much negativity, I'm just like, damn, I feel bad for that guy that like he truly wasted his time with that. Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, like...
Go find a book you like. There's
that's
so
the
many
thing.
damn books.
That's the thing. If anything, you should say what you don't like about it, 1 star, and then people should hit you with, this is what you have to read.
He must have just loved hating it and loved proving why he could tell you he hated it. So that book must have been really important to him.
Yeah. Maybe he auditioned for the movie and didn't get the part. I'd be pretty pissed too.
He auditioned to play the boy, and he spent the rest of his upbringing bitter that he didn't get to be the boy.
That could be it too.
Yeah.
What other toxic author could I... No, honestly, the thing with DFW is like he's so opinionated and I love it. Because some of his stuff doesn't work for me. But when it does work, it's really just like, oh, dude, you blew me away. And it was like a huge OMG moment. Because I'm just not expecting that with books.
Yeah.
To be actually like blown away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like knocked out of my chair, low-key.
Yeah.
You ever feel that?
Absolutely. I felt that way reading that book. It wore me down at times, but I felt a sense of accomplishment finishing it. And I felt companionship. I felt, like you said, this is someone who can make me laugh. And laughing when you're reading is not easy.
It's really hard to do.
Laughing watching a movie or a TV show isn't that easy.
I like to save my laughs.
Yeah, save them.
I only have so many.
Exactly. Truly. I think I ran out of mine like a few years ago. Sometimes I'll be listening to this podcast and I'll hear my laugh and it sounds parched.
Do you
I'm
ever
like,
force
dude, you're
a laugh?
out of laughs. I force a laugh not for the wrong reasons. I force a laugh
To be
because
polite.
I want to experience the joy of the moment that I recognize is there. Do you?
I try to keep it pretty like laughing when appropriate.
Yeah.
I think I have a pretty good handle on that. But I feel like books you can really kind of like derive a message from sometimes. And just like what is it and summarize it. Honestly, I have no idea how to even talk about this book.
Yeah, because it does. You could say a lot of things that it is sort of the result of one man's mental illness in his prime.
But is it good though? I think it is.
Yes, I think it's good.
And it's also political a little bit, like with all the Canada stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's like Canada.
There's the French-Canadian separatists.
Canada and the U.S. are now merged.
Parts of New England are under the French-Canadian separatists, and that part's very funny too.
Yeah, they like bought states, and then one state is just a hellhole. Yeah,
and here we are in 2025. We have a president who keeps threatening to invade Canada.
Do you think he read Infinite Jest?
The other part is Canada has the same population as California.
Really?
Yeah, so that's crazy. The other thing I was thinking of are funny books. Okay. I just reread Confederacy of Dunces, which you and I talked about last night. You said it made you laugh out loud reading it.
Yeah, because it's just a guy going around using like medieval vocabulary, calling people like urchins in New Orleans.
Exactly. Yeah, like the most severe medieval language. He's smarter than everyone, yet he's a total slob. Every character in that book was so precise. And there was an author who, if you know the backstory, had a really tragic ending. He kind of similarly death by suicide in his early 30s. His mom went on to push this book he wrote and finally got it to the right person.
John Kennedy
Toole, yeah.
Okay.
And it won the Pulitzer 15 years after the guy died. Something around then in the early 80s. He wrote it in the early 60s, I believe. And I was thinking books that make me laugh. This book made me laugh, Infinite Jest. Yeah. David Foster Wallace, there's a moment in his first novel, Broom of the System, that I'm not going to describe because it won't be funny to you, but it was so funny to me. I was laughing to the point of tears.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he has 3 novels, technically. He has Broom of the System, which was like his thesis.
First one. Yeah, written in college or grad school. And we're in Tucson right now where he went to grad school. And he didn't like it because he was a chronic sweater. He sweated a lot.
Yeah, so that's why he wore the bandana?
Yeah, that's why he wore the bandana, because he was constantly sweating.
Okay.
He had hyperhidrosis. And Tucson being a really hot place.
Which, yeah, we've been talking about Tucson a lot. Because this is my first time in Tucson.
Yeah.
And I want to see University of Arizona, where he was teaching.
Yeah, maybe we should pop over there. It's really pretty.
Oh,
it's the only place with good lawns in the city that I've found so far.
Well, is Arizona kind of like LA in a way, where it's like kind of this manufactured city where it's like not really supposed to be here, but we force it and it takes so much water to do it?
at these population levels.
Yeah.
There were always indigenous people here.
But like a city, like a sprawling city.
A sprawling
you know
city,
what I mean?
no, probably not. Tucson has an underground water table that gets filled up by by monsoons. So they get these dramatic summer storms that give them most of their water. And I don't totally know where all of it comes from. I am guessing there's some Colorado River action going on.
Okay.
And stuff like that. But yeah, I guess Phoenix is that way. They've had to stop building parts of Phoenix, which has been the fastest growing city in the United States.
Dude, amazing.
Because they're not sure how they're going to get water there.
Incredible parking lots in Phoenix, though. They almost rival Dallas.
Wow.
With how nice they are.
The parking lots?
Yeah, massive.
Yeah,
You
Tucson.
can park anywhere you want.
Tucson can compete as well.
They got the parking lots?
Oh, yeah. I haven't taken you to that part of the city, which is most of the city.
It's interesting carrying a massive book like this in my suitcase.
It is. George Saunders talked about this book. He took it to Southeast Asia with him on his trip, and he talked about how the weight was part of the experience of the reading, and how by choosing to reread this book, written by, I believe he was a friend as well, you're making a statement to yourself as well. It's part of the reading.
Yeah.
The physicality of the book. Like my friend Steve was on the podcast saying he was listening to audiobooks. And what a different experience with an audiobook, because you can be up moving. You can be cleaning. You could be living your life. Reading, you are stopping the motion.
Yeah, this is a ball and chain right here.
A ball and
That's
chain.
what it is.
It's an anchor.
This is what this book is.
That'll keep your boat steady in a storm.
You know what this book is? It's building a prison around yourself that you have to claw your way out of to get to the same freedom you had before you picked up the thing. That's beautiful. That's what it is.
I'm not arguing with that. You said it all.
I mean, it's just a matter of like, it's so big.
Yeah.
It's big, but
are there any other authors who make you laugh that you can recall? Because I could give you my list. It's very short.
Any other authors? I feel like Eve Babbitt's would crack me up with like talking about LA. Honestly, not that many books. My dad got me a Jerry Seinfeld book for Christmas.
I know you didn't laugh reading that.
I haven't started it yet, so we don't know.
Yeah.
But only time will tell.
Okay, I'll give you mine. David Foster Wallace, George Saunders, Miranda July, Paul Beatty, one of the funniest, John Kennedy Toole, who sadly only wrote that one book, but it was a perfect book. I think I'm going to do a standalone episode by myself, just talking about Confederacy of Dunces.
You gotta.
I want to go deep into my feelings with it, because it's, to me, a perfect book and one of the funniest pieces of anything I've ever read.
It's short, it's to the point, it's
every character hums.
Well, and it's like it's able to hit these like insane leaps and strides between something that makes you laugh and then something that's just so real and moving.
Yeah, it's because it's really touching on the despair of having to go get a job.
Dude, and
I mean, really.
Well, working on its own is psychotic.
It's totalitarian.
The whole thing, this is the thing about working that makes me feel like it's nuts. You go in and you have to do something you don't want to do for somebody else.
Way longer than you want to do it.
But working for anybody else, it's like, that's insane behavior. And then you get paid money. What is that, paper? And then I use that to go buy a book like this that just takes away more time from my life and is punishing?
Well, the book is to
Masochism.
decompress you. It's like you fill up with all that hot air, and the book is supposed to kind of take you down a little so that you're ready to go back to work and get filled up with hot air again.
Sure. I mean, the hard thing about this book was being locked in. And you know, the thing about it too is like I bought a brick for my phone because I'm just always on it, and my friend recommended it to me, and it was really cool. But I think this book is honestly like a better version of brick, because if you really commit to reading it, well, that's also not true, because you kind of have to be looking up words on your phone. If you want to be really hardcore, you could rent a dictionary from the library or something.
Yeah.
Or just read it on Kindle and tap the words. I'm so Kindle pilled. You know I love it.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard our last episode together with Pete, we talked about how awesome the Kindle is. And I'm actually going to take it back because it's perfect for flights.
Okay.
You don't have to turn on the light. You can just do it. It doesn't bother other people. It's so easy. You can carry any books. And I feel like a big reason why books lost popularity is because you can stream anything like movies and music, but you can't really stream books. And so with Kindle, you can connect it to your library account and you can stream books.
Yeah, it's endless, which is what I don't like. I don't like Spotify, how you can listen to music endlessly. I like a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
I want a book is finite, and that to me eases my anxiety. It's already bad enough. We're sitting in a room surrounded by my books. My bookshelves can't contain them. They're stacking up on the floor. And I already feel way behind on everything I want to read.
Well, but you have to look at yourself and what you've done with Infinite Jest is kind of like, okay, for me, like this is the real thing about it is, again, it's something people always say you can't do it. People will just tell you can't read this book and it's nonsense and it sucks and it's bad. And maybe you'll read it and you will hate it, but you can at least read it. Like it's not that as hard as people think if you just
looking at
to
it. It's 1,000, almost 1,100 pages.
But the page numbers, it's like arbitrary. Because a lot of this stuff, it's pretty good. And some of the stuff, if it sucks, just read it a little bit faster. But it's like a thing of like, you can read it and you probably will get something out of it. And then you can move on to the next thing in life. Even if you hate it, then you have even more credibility to destroy it as a meme thing, rightfully so.
Yeah, or to be the top reviewer on Goodreads.
And if that guy read The Road, kudos to him.
Yeah.
I would never neg on someone for hating something if they watched it or read it all the way through.
Fair.
That's kind of my vibe.
Fair.
Because I love going crazy on Letterboxd.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, but I'll always watch it all the way through and punish myself. If I know I don't like something 10 minutes in, I will sit there fuming, watching the entire thing pissed off, and then I'll go crazy about it on Letterboxd. Get anywhere from 3 to 8 likes, and I will feel so vindicated.
Well, I think you came in with the opposite of hate today. You challenged yourself. You challenged the narrative that had been put in front of you. And you navigated difficult feelings in a world of gray. And you found a book that you got a lot of meaning out of. And you're a Kindle guy. And the fact that you've been carrying around the 1,000-page book, that's significant in and of itself.
I wanted to spiritually pay respect to him by saying, okay, I'll play the game. Because that's my thing with like art and anything. It's like if you really want people to listen to something and take you seriously, I'm so down. And I'll do that. But then I'm going to take it seriously all the way.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite thing to do with like art and something where it's just like, I don't know, ironic, like just memeing on something, whatever, isn't as fun as like, let me just fully put myself in this world of like these characters and these footnotes and bouncing around. Sometimes though, it's like you're pissed off in the moment and you look back and you're like, I understand. Like there's this footnote that was like 20 pages and it's probably the most important footnote in the book, I think. And then the next footnote that you have to go to is like a nothing footnote. It actually takes away. It doesn't need to be there at all. And like it clicked later for me that it's like, oh, that's such a funny joke.
Right.
Of like giving me something that's so serious. And then the next thing is like, dude, you're wasting my time. And I don't know. You have to respect that.
Yeah. No, because he went in with intention. And you go in with intention as someone engaging with it. And that's where the art occurs.
But also that is where it's tricky when people say it's a pretentious book because totally the language, you can interpret it as that. But also with the footnotes, it's like this guy is making fun of pretentious books.
Right.
And that's the hard thing sometimes with it and like going in that direction of making fun of stuff is like he's really living that. It's like the same thing with us talking about Girls last night.
Yeah, the HBO show Girls.
Yeah, not just Girls. Lena Dunham's Girls.
Yeah.
I'm on season 2 and I'm obsessed with it. But it's so like, you know, they're making fun of these characters, but they are these kind of characters. And so I think if I didn't know that I'm watching it, I might be a little...
You might not be in on the joke, but also the sincerity.
Yeah, I don't know. And like, it is sincere.
It is.
That's the thing about it.
And they're sincerely making fun of themselves at times too. Yeah, I like that distinction. I think that's really cool that you brought that up.
When I'm just like, Infinite Jest to me feels so sincere. And like the characters are sincere. And as I'm reading The Pale King, I'm halfway through. So I wish I finished it and could talk about it, but it's an unfinished book on its own. So
yeah, so that was his final book. He didn't finish it. They put it together anyway. It's about the IRS.
Which he worked at for like a year.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I keep using the word bludgeons, but he does. He bludgeons you with tax code.
It's horrific.
And nuance. Horrific clinical language, once again.
But also, okay, that's like the thing with this postmodern work that's kind of beautiful. My friend put it so eloquently. Like, she finished Infinite Jest, and my friend Maddie, she said, like, if you're reading, like, Dostoevsky, can you clean that up and just make it sound like I said that totally the best way?
Say it again.
Probably.
Dostoevsky.
There we go. I was excited the first time. I just jumped into it. But, like, the way he describes, like, beautiful Russian sunsets, and it's magical, whatever. DFW wants to give that same language to the world we live in now. So, unfortunately, it's like you have environments where it's like he's talking about an HVAC. He's going to describe it in really bland, clinical, sterile language, or like an office space with the kind of respect that a sunset would get.
Right. And that's more most people's day. Most people's day is the office than it is a sunset.
But it's like that's the world we live in.
Dang.
And like that's that sunset of like it might feel like a nothing thing, but then it's like real life feels like that nothing thing of like you have to look at these little things and be like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Describing like absolute bullcrap, pages and pages and pages, but it's so intense, and he's giving it that like due respect.
Yeah.
Of like, well, this is what it is. Like that's the postmodern element. One of them, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think.
Dang. No, great point. Maddie Powers.
She said it, not me. No, a different Maddie.
Oh, okay. Thought it was a mutual friend. Well, I got to tell you, this was a great episode. I feel like we got to go hiking.
Dude, I'm down.
Got to get up in the cactus and see that perch that he wrote about in Infinite Jest. Where the FBI informants or whatever they were talking to each other in drag.
Dude, you know what's so crazy? Completely slipped my mind, that whole thing.
Really?
Yeah, the fact that takes place I was just thinking about the Arizona football chapters.
Oh, were you?
Wow.
Yeah, no, this is, we can go emulate
guys,
that.
You have to read this book, and then you have to come to Tucson and stay with Josh.
There's a room.
Just hit him up. He's always down for anyone. You said you would just take anybody, right?
Yeah, anyone.
Just knock on the door. We'll post his address. If he doesn't post his address, I'll post it on my
email. Your background check.
Sure. You have to take a questionnaire to prove that you read Infinite Jest.
You also have to have TSA pre-screening. Okay,
and also this is what I want to end with. This is not a thing of like a guy coming on saying, read Infinite Jest. It's going to change your life. This just did for me. If you read the first page and it sucks, I think that's awesome.
Move on.
If you can't, move on, because it's a book. That's all it is. It's not anything grander than life. This is just because maybe I had too much time on my hands and I looked into something too much, which is also maybe the point of the book.
It didn't sound like you had too much time on your hands.
I'm flip-flopping on this book, but that's the magic of it. But I guess it's just like it shouldn't be something that's like forced upon anyone. It should be like if you feel this book draws you, you go to Barnes & Noble's. You go to the Starbucks section. You get a little iced latte. You're walking around. You see their literary table thing, and it has like Ulysses on it. Like all these amazing goated books, right? It has that. It has freaking Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. I don't know. And then you see this big blue book, Infinite Jest. Maybe pick it up. If you feel drawing to it, this is what you do. You open the page and just start reading and take it from there.
Simple,
right?
Practical, and yet the most important advice you can give.
And you can do it on the floor in Barnes & Noble's.
Engage.
It's the only bookstore you can lay on the floor and read books. There's always people doing it at my Barnes & Noble's. You have to like step over people to like grab books off shelves.
Yeah. The human obstacle course. The hunt.
Yeah.
Hunger Games. And they might be reading Hunger Games while you're living it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Next time we'll talk about Hunger Games.
Let's do it. And Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Well, so you'll have to have Pete on next time. And then he can challenge everything I've said.
Yeah.
And destroy our friendship if he doesn't agree with me all the way. He actually got Infinite Jest because I told him about it.
Really?
Yeah, on his Kindle.
He's on his journey now?
He got it on his Kindle, and he, I don't know if he started it.
That's Pete Ditzler, who hosts a great podcast and collaborates a lot with our man here, Cam George.
We've been best friends since middle school, and we work on everything together, and he's brilliant.
Check out what they do. Is there anywhere you want people to check out what you do?
I don't know. If you like podcasts, you can listen to ours. We break down podcasts. We have been breaking down Talk Tuah. We're kind of figuring out the next direction we're going to take it, which is fitting because the last time I saw you We had just done Beast Pod Official, which was our companion guide to Mr. Beast's content library. And that was before we found Haley Welch's podcast. So this is another like stepping stone. I'm going to see you. Hopefully the next time I see you, we'll have way better sense of direction.
You will have then concluded another podcast.
But
You only see me when you're lost, not when you have a sense of direction.
I like that. Well, but DFW, it really felt like a North Star, because I'll just end it with his book, Oblivion, short story book. So good. Unbelievable. If Infinite Jest, you're like, I don't know if I have the time for this, but I kind of like the idea of this guy. Oblivion's where you want to go. Short stories, totally manageable. Same vibe, basically. And his vocabulary in that, it's just like some of those words, I just remember seeing them and being like, we have to do something with this. You know what I mean? And it just really was so inspiring in that kind of language.
Cam George, my man, thank you so much for doing the podcast again.
Should I wear shorts on this hike?
Or do you think I'll be okay
with pants?
Yeah, we got rain here in Tucson, so we deceived you into thinking this was a moderate climate. But yeah, sun's coming out. Cam George, thank you so much, and thank you for listening to another episode of Turek Books, and happy reading. Also, if you get a chance to rate our podcast on whatever platform you're listening to, I think it helps. I don't know. I think it lends credence to the podcast, and then maybe other guests want to come on too.
Well, I think people have to understand at the end of the day, it's like you're a guy that is working jobs, making money, and you're doing this.
I'm sitting in a back room.
We just have to start demystifying this stuff. It's just like, this isn't anything. We're both just two guys. Yeah. I came in from LA. I got here by car. Like, nothing is ever like that. It's just people doing stuff.
And in a world where we're constantly being measured by numbers, sometimes higher numbers help. Well, what do they help? They help us maybe reach a point of ease and comfort, and maybe we don't need that. Maybe that's not good for us.
So you're saying if you got a 1-star review, you wouldn't be...
Not 1 or 5. Don't rate the podcast. I take it back.
Okay, no numbers.
Thanks for listening, and I hope I get a chance to listen to you.
I like that. If you listen to someone's podcast, you now have to listen to their podcast.
Yeah.
As like it's a two-way street.
Or they can leave you a voicemail that's an hour long and you have to listen to it.
I think my thing is, if you listen to my full podcast and send me a mail survey or questionnaire, I will actually answer it and send it back. 100%.
That's fair. That's mutuality.
It's respect.
So let's end on that. Thank you for participating in the first step to what hopefully becomes a mutual conversation among all of us, and peace on earth.
Peace on earth.
Supreme.
And Hunger Games.
Before the peace, you got to do the hunger. Thank you so much.